Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
I just started it again.
So today we have AMI, Intel, Tieto, every, okay, good. So at least we have some quorum, that's good. I'm pinging Alex here on, I almost said Teams, but I mean Slack. And Bob, perhaps. Can't find Bob. Bob.
Good morning.
Alex is here. Hi. Good deal. Alex. Perfect. Anybody I missed? Oh, and Bob. Very good. Right, we have everybody, or we don't have everybody, but we have a good collection of people. So we had let me just quickly share the proposed agenda. Oh, it's up there. Very good. Appreciate it. Is that Lewis or who's?
Yeah, that's me. I put it up there because I had added the fourth bullet item if we get to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first topic is the release management process. Just to, well, I don't know that we're going to close on it, but people had some time to think about it. Second would be the umbrella organization. We had some presentation or discussions, at least, from, was it Heather?
Yes.
Yes, it was Heather.
On LFN. So that's just to collect our thoughts. And then we have the proposal meetings on Tuesdays, and I have not been successful in getting a lot of replies. I was thinking we could perhaps verbally align on what is a better slot, because I think, like yesterday, we had to basically skip because we didn't have quorum. So, and then your bullet there, the LFN Virtual Dev and Testing Forum event, Luis, as the last one. Okay, on the release management process, is Susan on yet? Yes, she is.
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there was some discussions last week, and I guess one of the concerns, or it wasn't a concern, but a point from Alex was, should we have maintenance releases or not? Any other thoughts? I guess we'll just open it up, because when we presented it, or Susan did, we also had a backing wiki page that you could go and read, and perhaps you did, and you have some thoughts now. So we just open it up for, if not, perhaps we, Luis, can you bring up that page? There is a, I don't know where we stuck it. There is a release management page.
Yeah, it says release management.
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually on the top. Yeah. So it's, and there is
Yeah.
a proposal there, and yeah. So there we see, basically we have 2 releases a year, January 31st and June 31st. And then, also actually July 31st. And then we have 2 maintenance releases. Actually, Susan, it's better that you drive this, because you're more tuned into it. Just to give a quick
Sure. So
summary.
let's recap from last week, as Jonas was already doing. So this was outlining, you do the 2 major releases a year, as he said. And then if you notice down in the lighter blue, as soon as you do a release, this called for a maintenance release. And then some of the discussion last week was we're very likely to have the same resources working on the next major feature release and also doing maintenance stuff at the same time. So the question was, do we want to have the major and maintenance, or do we just want to have 4 releases a year? So that's kind of where we left it. The idea behind this, I think, is that, maintenance releases are obviously focused just on defect fixes. It's not new. There aren't new features in it. And so it would kind of go from, a big release, let's say 1.0 at the end of January to 1.1 at the end of April, but then another big release in the summer with, say, 2.0.
But are we talking about, so one of the additional consideration here, Susan, is the number of releases that we would have maintenance for. So let's get past the first 2. Let's say we're on release 5 and somebody finds a bug in release 3 and that bug exists in release 2 and release 1 as well. Do we backport the fix?
Yeah, so we need to have that sorted as well. I don't think we addressed that, Alex, but like how many major releases do we support, right?
Yeah.
That's something that we need to decide.
If
And
we
also, yeah.
Go ahead, finish.
Also, the numbering is the jury is
Yeah.
out on that. Like what Susan said was just an example: 1, 2, 3. I mean, we can have 1.0 release, and then 1.01 could be a maintenance release, and the next major could be 1.1. And then we can step to 2 only if we get a significant change to the architecture. For instance, let's say we throw out Go Micro and we start with gRPC. Just throwing some thoughts out, basically.
Yeah, so along those lines, if we look at it, so again, using ONAP as an example of a very kind of sophisticated project, but one that suffered from scheduling delays because, again, there was a shortage of people working on all this stuff. Instead of numbers, I think they adopted a naming convention, not a naming convention, but well, a little bit of that. But they have code names for releases. If they do a maintenance release, they just say it's a maintenance release for the Shanghai version of or whatever, right? They use major cities, I think, as a way of distinguishing between releases. So they kind of sidestep that. But then the way I kind of look at it in terms of agility is that if we have a bunch of development branches that, have specific components of ONAP being continuously developed and taken forward, snapshots of those development branches could, and merging them, and the merge of those snapshots would in essence create a release at any given time. So you can have continuous development, and then you can choose to integrate certain features into a certain release, and you get them from the branch, and you do what you need to do, right? So we're not constrained.
Can you be more specific? Because I guess I get all that, but you do what you need to do is kind of a little vague. So let's say we just use one branch, the main branch then, because there are some projects doing that. And then we just continue. So as soon as somebody is merging in a feature into the main branch, are you saying that, what are you proposing at that point?
So if we have, development ongoing in parallel in different areas, so I kind of envision that eventually we will end up having, different development streams, one focused, say, on the composability, one focused on aggregation, one focused on telemetry, one focused on, eventing, maybe other things. These are components of ONAP, right? Some of these components, we may want to keep together because they're sort of the immutable core. But other things need to be pluggable, as we've said a number of times. And so they can be, done in parallel with that, kind of core functionality. When they reach a certain level of stability or a certain level of functionality as determined by that team, they would integrate into the main release, right? And then we can decide what features from what components are going to be in what release, and we can basically say, okay, once we reach stability level X for this particular feature in this component, then we will call for a release. We can actually plan. It's almost like a train. Every 6 months, let's say a train leaves the station, we sell tickets, and those tickets go to individual development streams, and there they can decide what they want to contribute, right?
Well, so I'm sharing a traditional,
Yeah.
branching approach here, right? And this is something that some projects have completely moved away from, which is fine. But what we looked at here was just development branch. Just keep developing here, boom, boom, boom,
Yes.
and then you have different features. No worries. When you're getting ready to release, you issue the release branch. And in
Yes.
this release branch, until you release, there is no new features, such as bug fixes. In the same time, in parallel, there is a lot of development going on in the development
Yes.
branch, of course.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then you just, once you're done with the release and you say, okay, we have it RC1 or 2, what have you, now we're going to release. Then
Yeah.
that's what you push over to master. Some projects, though, just keep developing in master, and they are tagging instead, and they are dealing with stuff like that. I have no preference. I'm fine with either. We just need to make a decision, right?
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that whichever one would facilitate a maintenance release free model where we continuously improve the code, and then
I see. Your concern is a little bit on the maintenance release.
exactly right. So what I'm
Okay.
trying to say, maybe not so well, is that look, if individual pieces of ODIM continue to be need development, right, and they continue to be improved, then as long as they meet some minimum level of stability and API compatibility, they can be considered as candidates for a particular release, right? And they can be merged into a release branch, right? But I actually don't see a single development branch. I guess you're right. Yeah. So here you have feature branches. So that's great. Great, great, great. So same idea, right? But what we wouldn't do is have maintenance releases then potentially would have to be backported, to something else, right? If somebody, we just fix bugs in the release, then we release it, we continue working, then we start the new release, and we continue to improve on it until it has a certain level of hardness and quality and whatnot, and then we ship that, and then the next one and the next one. We would never look back.
Yeah, that's my feeling as well. Because if you, let's say we release 1.0, and then 2 years later we are on what have you, 3 dot something, and then some telco or somebody else wants to see a fix being applied to 1.0. We don't have that. We don't have the mechanism set up for that, and I think that would be difficult. Instead, they should jump to something later and get the fix there.
Yeah, yeah, and if you look at CI/CD principles, that would actually kind of go in line with that. You don't want to look back. You want to look forward. You want to continuously integrate, continuously test, continuously release.
So, anybody else here, like William? Sorry for calling you out, but working at Red Hat, you obviously
Yes.
have going across a lot of projects. What is your preference as far as some projects only have a single branch, basically, and then feature branches? Any thoughts?
I will not have a preference right now. It's just so I know the pros and cons, and yes, there's painful way to learn this. I will follow as close as possible the way Kubernetes does it, because that has been kind of the one that is moving the fastest while maintaining certain stability. So
How is
it's
that
not
different
perfect,
then?
but yeah. Sorry.
Can you tell us about how is Kubernetes doing it? Do you have many branches like this, or just one? Or I mean, because the interesting thing about feature branches is obviously, for instance, Intel is working on this unmanaged rack plugin right now, and that lives in a feature branch. And obviously, you know, as soon as there are changes in development branch, they update the feature branch, I imagine, and then eventually, when we reach a point in time of certain maturity, it will be merged into the development branch. So that is one thing. But do you release from the development branch, or do you spin off a specific release branch, and then eventually it hits the main
So
branch?
in the case of Kubernetes, what I've seen so far is that they have release branches only, basically, and everything else is work out of master.
Okay, so there is no develop branch. There is a master and then release branches.
Yeah.
And then they tag the master branch then.
Yeah. I may have some input, if I may.
Absolutely.
I have some experience with the SPDK project, Storage Performance Development Kit. So basically, we also have like a main branch and then release branches, and it works for us very well. As for the naming, the naming convention is very simple, and I would propose to consider it because having versions like 1.0, we will have the need at some point to some other information, like when was this released. Our release schema is telling us directly which year was that and which month, because we use last two digits of the year point, and then the month number that we release. For example, the next release of SPDK will happen at the end of January 2021, and the number of this version will be 21.01. This works very well for us for several years now. We do have maintenance releases. Basically, a month after this release, we have so-called point release. So this would be 21.01.1. And in this maintenance release, we have, of course, the critical bugs found in the release, but we also do updates to submodules that we depend on in these releases. As for backporting and maintaining several releases back, we do not backport the features to previous releases. After several rounds of our releases, this year we came up with a LTS release, long-term support release. So basically the critical bugs, we try to backport only to this LTS release, which happens once a year. And our first LTS release was in January last year. And this upcoming release, 21.01, will also be another LTS release. And this is our limit to backport the critical fixes. If you are interested in, for example, seeing the maintenance release announcements, I'm pasting to the chat of this meeting.
Yeah, and I had a question for you as well, Piotr. So first out, what was the name of the project you're working in? SDS, did you say? Or?
It's SPDK. SPDK. Is
that an open source project, Piotr?
Yes, completely open source. Yeah.
Okay. And multi-company?
Yes.
Okay.
So the other question I had is, so if you then, let's say we get rid of all the branches, we only have feature branches and we have the master branch then, right? So
master and release branches, not feature branches.
Oh, so you don't have feature branches either?
Yeah, we tend to have all the features on the master branch.
Yeah, but we need to somehow, okay, whichever way we do it, what I'd like to do, what I want to see is some parallelism, right? And I want to be able to develop and evolve individual pieces of ODIM in parallel, right? I don't want everybody to be sitting in one branch doing all the work.
Yeah,
Because if
yeah,
we look at how would we handle experimental work
yeah,
versus incubating versus whatever, right? We need to be able to say, look, we're going to be working on a new management service for ODIM. Let's say it's an analytics service or a metering service or something like that. And that has a code base that it's derived from some release. It's going to be based on release 2 of ODIM. And now we're going to go and add additional code to ODIM, right? We're going to, but it needs to develop independently. It can't be all part of the same code tree, right? It has to be a separate branch that we only merge in when it's good and ready, when we go through the whole taxonomy, release taxonomy, stability levels, and everything else.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
against this proposal. It's a very interesting proposal. We just need to keep in mind that it adds some maintenance burden to developers because they need to merge with the master or main branch pretty often when working on their feature branch, right?
And that's
So
what we do
that's
now.
that's
If you
something to
guys
keep
go
in
and
mind. Yeah.
if you go and look at get the Git log, you will see that there are many feature branches, and they come back into development all the time. And so basically, it's on a very granular level. You grab an issue and you basically create your feature branch. Specifically, if you're multiple engineers working on it, if you're only one, you might just do your personal little branch locally and you merge it in, so it will never be visible that it was a feature branch in the development branch. But if you seek collaboration, you will see a feature branch, and then it will go back in, right? So that's one thing, and I also feel like Alex that is very handy because it sort of isolates these big things from disturbing what is going on in the main stable branch then, right?
Sure.
But then what you are saying, Piotr, is that the development branch doesn't exist. It's instead the master branch. So my question then is, if I'm cloning then, let's say I'm cloning, I'm setting up, I just clone from Git, I will get all the new features all the time. So how do I know that I will get the release? Will I just clone a certain tag or?
That's right. Yeah. Basically, we tend to work in a model that each day our main branch is releasable. So the release is just a point in time when we freeze the set of features, and we just announced the features that are ready, and we omit the features that are under development or are incomplete. Sometimes we may disable the feature for this point in time, but the main goal is to have everything releasable each day. It's just a model that we chose, and it works for us. I'm not strongly advocating for this model. It's just something to consider.
Yeah, it's very good input. Okay.
So what about backward compatibility in that model, Piotr? If I have a feature that introduces an incompatibility in terms of API format or aligns with a new version of the spec, how would that all work?
We basically look forward, and every change that breaks the API or ABI needs to be agreed upon all the maintainers that come from different.
Yeah, but this is not a breakage. This is intentional evolution of interfaces, right? So I could argue that I can have a feature branch that basically brings up ODIM to a certain level of specification compatibility, right? And there are fixes there. And so I want to continue doing what I'm doing until those APIs are good and ready, and until they've been tested and they've been
But
certified to be compliant with whatever needs to be done. I don't want them anywhere close to a release branch where, you know, somebody can take a release at any given in time and try to do development from it.
but isn't that part of the API versioning itself? So
Yeah, it is.
if
It is
because
on
Well,
Redfish.
it could be an
Yes,
experimental API. I agree with you, William. I mean,
still
depends on
it
what
will,
we do.
an experimental should never break what is a stable API.
Exactly. So that's why I'm saying that if an experimental feature introduces new interfaces as well as makes changes to the existing ones,
No, is that you cannot change an existing one
but
because
it's
you need a proper process to deprecate it while maintaining compatibility.
yes, and we do implement this kind of process. Basically, when we do an experimental feature development or API changes, we tend to have the series of patches that are being under review on Gerrit, and they are only merged to the main branch when the API is stabilized. The changes are agreed between all the maintainers. So the merge happens in a delayed point of time. During development, we have like a patch of series of patches that are one after the other, and then the series is being merged when it's ready.
So just to you aware, like today, if you clone Git, like I'm doing now from ODIM, you will clone it to ODIM, and the default branch is actually developed. If you, I don't know why it's so slow now. Usually it's not. But in any case, if you jump into ODIM then, and you see you're immediately in the development branch, but you can obviously go over to the main branch or the master branch, and there are some other branches existing. For instance, we have the profiles branch, which we haven't merged in yet because we didn't even start to have a discussion here about if the profiles are good or not. We should at one point. But my point here was that, so we are always hanging out in the development branch. If the preference of this project is to instead do that in the master branch, that's fine. I'm just a little concerned about if what I'm feeling is that if I just hit Git and I clone something, I would expect it to be stable and not contain new features. And I mean, new features could be stable, of course. But if I clone today and clone tomorrow, if there hasn't been a main release between those times, I expect to get the same thing. But that's perhaps because I'm stuck in the old ways. I don't know.
Yeah.
In
our case, it's just that the main branch is always stable because the patches, the features will not get merged to it until they pass all the testing, all the CIs. So we are very cautious about merging the new features, the series of patches, like I said, until it's stable and does not break any.
But I will get new features, stable features then. So if I if I clone on Monday and then Monday next week, I might actually have new configuration files in /etc or what have you. And if I want to get the same thing between those 2 weeks, I will have to clone a certain commit or a tag, right? That's what you're saying.
Yep.
I kind of want to understand more about the level of atomicity within SPDK, meaning how loosely coupled are the components of SPDK? Can I subset and substitute those components? Can I
yeah, exactly. The specifics of the ODIM project may be a bit different. So there's no one size fits all. Of course, SPDK is basically a set of libraries and applications. So it's not like a unique component or one component. We have multiple libraries basically developing entire storage stack. And these components are being developed, separately. Of course, the interoperability between them is fully tested. So yeah, as I said, I'm not strongly voting for having just one main branch. It's just something for consideration that that I put out there. But basically, the naming convention is something that I would
yeah, that is
propose.
actually a good idea. I like your naming convention. It's very elegant to also have those type of project names, of course, like Alex was proposing. But programmatically, it's good to be able to quickly get the version. And I think having year dot month is nice. DMTF has something similar. They have year dot release, which is like 3-4 releases a year, but this is good. And then you have, so 2101 would be our release as well in that case, if we release on 31st of January. And then the maintenance release, if we decide to go for one of those, will be 2101.1, right?
Yeah. And our project does not make get any credit for that. We inherited this naming convention from a very similar project, DPDK, Data Plane Development Kit.
Oh,
it's
yeah, exactly.
Also an open source project. Probably most of you.
And even Ubuntu does that, right? That's how that's their release versioning is doing a similar thing, right?
Yeah. And then having a maintenance release name is just adding another point, and then 1, 2, 3. We end up in one maintenance release, sometimes two maintenance release if something critical comes up. So we have point 1, point 2, for example.
Okay. Yeah, let's. I know Susan is taking some notes here. I've been taking some as well. Let's see if we can gather this and stick it on the same page, like input from TSC, and then we can see the different alternatives and see if we can continue this discussion. I think we probably need to close on this before Christmas if we want to get something out in the end of January, right? At least what we should call the release, I'm thinking.
Yeah, and I made some notes too, as you said, Jonas, and certainly the branching model is critical. I don't think you can have that picture of the releases without it. And, the discussion of supporting and how far back do we support and the numbering, it all kind of comes together. You've got to have all of it to make the release management plan make any sense. So
yeah, on the branching model, yeah.
Just Susan, just don't discount the people issue, right? Because the reality will be that it's going to be the same people working on both, and they can only have so much time dedicated to getting the job done.
Right. And I understand and agree with that, Alex. And you were mentioning, I was remembering one thing you said last time, and that was discussing the constant CI/CD and wanting to understand how that fits together with the notion of making sure that all features are being tested together and that interoperability, or what we called integration. But I do recognize it is 35 minutes into the meeting, so I can work offline some more with Jonas on this, and just do want to understand that, though, Alex, when we have a chance.
The wiki page. And I think for today, just so you know, the CI/CD is kind of limited in that we run all the unit tests when we merge. Well, actually, not when we merge. When we raise a pull request, that's when it's being run, right? So it's like here, for instance, and it will be run like here. Yeah, whenever something is going back into develop is what we have set it up to now. But the problem with those tests is obviously, well, once we get some simulator of other type of hardware, it will be a better CI/CD pipeline, if you ask me, because right now we're just doing the unit tests, which is
Well,
perhaps not.
there are multiple things we need to. I think we need to get to an OpenStack model for self-certification, right? Where any new service, be it No or Cinder, whatever, there's a set of interfaces that you have to comply with, and you have to enforce. I think we need to kind of get to a point where we have a common core that has all the supporting services that ODIM will rely on, like eventing, jobs, tasks, identity, whatever we need to put in there, the API gateway. But then I think the more loosely coupled and the more pluggable we make things from an actual functionality point of view, the better off we're going to be, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So,
You mentioned certification there in this OpenStack model. What did you mean by that?
so I think they have an integration criteria for new projects that's very, very rigorous. You have to pass API compatibility tests. You have to, there's a whole bunch of things but the burden is on the team developing the service, if I remember right, not on some mythical integration team, right? So basically, if you can show evidence of that you've certified that your code will plug into the rest of OpenStack and it will work correctly, then unless you can do that, you just don't go in.
Mm. Yep, yep. I don't think right now we have a lot of those sub projects, but I think that's something to think about in the future.
Yeah, one of the things that Raffle and I wanted to do was kind of start a conversation around kind of like sort of the architectural refactoring and of what we have kind of to make it more modular, right, and more loosely coupled. And this is based on the work that the team has done with your guys in India, right? So,
yep.
We would potentially even, have some people dedicated to actually doing that work, obviously. So, but that's something we need to kind of start on at some point, maybe next year.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that is not limited to just plugins. I think we need to have, we talked about a few weeks ago about how we need to get rid of Go Micro and perhaps move to something pure gRPC instead, so that we can have those foundational services or whatever you want to call them be reachable and something anybody can interact with, right?
Right. So I think we need to kind of understand what that might look like, and then maybe we make some adjustments to our CI/CD model or release model based on that. Because ultimately, if I want to add, if a new set of APIs is defined in Redfish, for example, right? I may want to start a project that realizes, one or more of those interfaces. And that will start out being, highly volatile, experimental features, whatever. But then over time, will increase additional stability. But, in the meantime, if I want somebody to try it, I would need to meet the criteria for being backward compatible. And it's not just plugins, right? To me, everything becomes as we know them today, to me, everything becomes a pluggable piece, right? With the exception of that core. So, the notion of a plugin just gets generalized. But individual plugins, depending on the level of complexity, may be developed in separate branches, or maybe multiple plugins might be developed together because they're related, but if we focus on API implementations, first and foremost, and then have some statement about how these implementations get integrated together into ODIM, then I think we'll be in good shape, because, that kind of will keep things loosely coupled.
Yeah, and this is a good bridge into the next topic, because I think, well, actually, we had a umbrella discussion first, but let's see if we can just get the TSC proposal meeting sort of nailed down. I think a lot of the discussions will happen in that meeting. So I do want to just go around the room and see what is so we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think as far as time slots in those days, the sweet spot will be, if we look at mountain time and we think about that we are fairly far west out, you and me, Alex, and Susan, and then 8 o'clock is the earliest. It's a little early for you, but 8 o'clock I'm saying, because that would be 7 o'clock for you, Alex. But if we go too late, then I think we will have 2 or 3 hours where we can go there every day, and then in India it's gonna be midnight. So that's the limitation. So if we look at then Monday, what are good time slots for everybody?
I can do from 6 to 7:30.
Let me just. So when you say that, you
That's
talking
Pacific time, so that
Pacific.
would be 7
let's-
a.m.
let's
to
just-
8:30 p.m.
Let's just talk
8:30
Pacific
a.m.
times. So the
What?
Pacific times is 6 to 7:30. You said.
Yes.
7:30. So that is for us. Can everybody check that then? That's from 7. Yeah. Oh, that's a meeting I can move.
Can I ask a silly question?
Yeah.
Would, so 6 a.m. might be a good time, yeah, maybe a little early for California, but more convenient for Europe and more convenient for India, I think. So could we do 6 to 7 on Tuesdays?
Susan, that's when you have your you have a standing meeting there, it looks like.
I do. Who's your audience for this? I'm not sure I'm going to be attending your proposal
No, that's
reviews.
true. That's true. That's a good point. Yep.
Yeah.
But we will need Bharat in these meetings.
Yeah. Tuesdays are bad because I am going to tie up your technical team and you.
The problem, Jonas, is I'm trying to navigate the DMTF Redfish Forum meetings, which happen, early in the morning.
On Mondays?
Well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
So do you have anything on Monday at 6?
No, I don't. I mean, 6 to 7 Pacific, I do not.
Okay, so Monday 6 to 7 is a proposed time slot. Then, what about the rest of the team here? Is that a good thing for some people, or?
For AMI, I think Monday morning 6 a.m. Pacific time is like 9 a.m. EST time, right? So that time we all have our weekly meeting Monday morning.
Okay, so that's 9. That's 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I'm just writing down.
What about Friday 6 a.m.?
Okay, so we can look at Friday. Yeah, I mean, for me that is that works very well. So Friday 6 to 7.
That will be early afternoon for Europe. And what about India?
India is it's going to be 6:30 in the evening there. That might, but so Susan, without an Indian team, we try not to do so much on Fridays.
I stay away from Fridays. It's such a long week. I hate to have
Oh.
those guys for a standing meeting, to have them on the phone on Friday nights. Not very nice.
Crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so then we have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday left.
Can we do 6 to 7 on Tuesday? Oh, on Tuesday you said there was a problem.
There is a problem, but I can probably, because Susan, you have both me and Martin. Martin could do your meeting and I could stay in the proposal meeting. The problem is I probably like to get Bharat in there as well.
But when I say 6 to 7, I mean Pacific time. We need to be careful.
Yeah,
here,
so it's
right?
7 to 8, and that's what we have that
7
meeting.
to 8, yes.
So actually, I think we're off by an hour. The meeting I'm thinking of that I'm looking at for next week, I can move that.
The AFC meeting?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. So then Tuesday 6 to 7 is good with Intel. It's good with HPE. AMI?
Yeah, we are good on Tuesday 9 a.m. EST time. It's 6 a.m. Pacific time. Tuesday is fine for us.
There you go.
Okay. Marcin?
Yes, same here. It should be fine. It means 7 to 8 my mountain time. I mean Arizona.
Okay. Yes, your mountain as well. So
And then
that's
it's
good.
like
So
2 to 3 p.m. European time, right?
City, yep.
yeah. What about William? Your input is
Yes.
highly appreciated.
Yeah.
Is that
That's a
good?
good
Or
thing.
I'm not asking you to always be there, but if it's a blocker, we might rethink it.
Yeah. No, that's a good time actually.
Okay. We have a winner. So I will move that meeting starting to next week then.
Right. So we should consider what happens the week after that and the week after that, because
Yeah.
at least personally, I'm out until the 9th of January, starting.
HPE is out as well till the beginning of January, I guess, like whenever the first business day is after New Year's,
I will
right?
be back the week after.
So do we think we will just not do meetings
I think
starting from?
we should cancel for those 2 weeks, because it'll just be, I mean, we can keep it and keep the topics light, but I would suggest we just bite the bullet.
Okay. Yeah.
Which ones are you? Well,
That is
that's a proposal meeting, but which weeks?
no, for both meetings. He's
Yeah.
saying the week of the 21st and the week of the 28th of December.
Agreed.
And for
Okay.
Europe, it's week 52 and 53 actually. We cancel the meetings.
I do think if you want to release on January 31st, we'd better meet that first week of January, even if everybody's, like Alex was saying, everybody's not back yet. We still better meet on the 6th.
I can do remote. I will be on, I think I will be on India time, so it'll be early in the morning for me. It'll be fine.
Yep. Okay. So good. So let's do that. Let's meet that first week of 2021.
Thanks.
52 and 53. Okay. Good. So now we are quickly jumping into potential move under the umbrella organization. Any thoughts from that discussion with Heather? I personally would like to see us move under LFN. I know you had some reservation, Alex. I feel that we can probably live there and still be applicable to the rest of the industry. I think the bigger concern for me right now is the success and just keep ODIM alive. So I would love to see us work under an organization where other projects will see us. But that's just my input.
Just a word of caution. I mean, yeah, we can kind of say, okay, let's see what we can see when ODIM becomes more ubiquitous. Then talking about adoption across different markets right now might be a moot point, right? Because we're still kind of trying to get it to a certain degree of sophistication and stability. But also understand one thing: if you go under that umbrella, it does not guarantee that all of a sudden we get increase in participation or even endorsement or adoption.
I totally agree.
Right. And the thing that might happen is, and this is something to consider, when we first started ODIM, there were some alternative proposals on how to manage telecom infrastructure. And I think some of those proposals continue to be continue to evolve. I forget the name of the community, but they're actively talking about this. So moving under that umbrella now will put us at odds with something that is very telco specific. And so now the question becomes, what are we to do?
Is there a specific project you have in mind?
Oh my God, it's I forget the name of it, but it's telecom infrastructure. I forget what it's called, but I think it's God.
I'm not thinking of which one you're.
Is it under LF or is it under some other?
I'm not sure. I know that companies like Amdocs and AT&T and others are there. So I just don't remember. I'm
Are you
sorry.
talking about the open infrastructure thing?
Yeah, that's it.
That's what OpenStack has become, I think.
No, not open infrastructure as an OpenStack, but there is actually, I think the proposal that originally came from China Mobile and somebody else became that, maybe. I'm not sure, Bob.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know if that thing went in there. I think I know which one you're talking about.
Well,
It's
all I'm saying, guys, if we go there, let's make sure we don't immediately get taken out by something that already has traction, but only for the telecom use cases and
Yeah.
has no hope in hell of ever being expanded out.
Yeah, I agree. The other, so we should look into that, obviously. But the other, I think, benefit here with going into an umbrella organization is that I think we will get more support from LF with regards to things like, getting access to Jira and these type of things, right?
Sure, of course. I understand the benefits. I'm simply saying that, if I want to be a devil's advocate, I'll say, why not CNCF? The future is cloud native.
Actually, I will first vote for trying CNCF, then the Network Foundation. And the reason is this: if you go into what's happening on CNCF right now, there is the new OpenNFV CNTT also happening there. There is a very active Edge community there, and a lot of the components that ODIM has, like let's say the queuing systems, are already from there. Okay, so it might be friendlier to have a wider audience in something like the CNCF than going into a networking group. Both will work for me. It's just that.
And to
Just
build on what
commenting
William
that.
was saying, the other advantage is that LF Edge, LF Network borrow heavily from CNCF technology stacks.
So
just a quick question. The CNTT OPNFE thing that you mentioned, that's now being reimagined as Anokit. That's an LFN. That's an LFN project, not a CNCF.
That is correct. Yeah. It's now called Anokit, and it's merged. Those two projects merged.
You're right. It merged into
I agree. There's a great community in CNCF. It's pretty big. My concern is we get a little lost. There's like 300 projects.
Yeah, that was also LF's feedback to us when we started this journey. That was one of our proposals, but then we got some feedback, and don't quote me on this one. I don't remember exactly what the feedback was at this point, word by word, but it was a little bit like, they have this sandbox project model as well. So how would we fit into that? Will we become a sandbox project?
I would think so. I think that's where we would start, right?
Will we ever get out of that? Because
I think that
was one of the issues raised.
Are you talking about with LFN? Are you talking about with LFN?
No, we're talking about CNCF.
Okay. Yeah. Just for LFN, there's a progression from sandbox to incubation to TAC project. So there is a progression. CNCF, I don't really know about.
Same thing, I think. Very similar.
Yeah, but the discussion we originally had with CNCF, when we were talking about joining CNCF, was that it was extremely difficult to get out of sandbox within CNCF. You just seem to you live there and you never, it never becomes a qualified project. So it'll always look a bit experimental. And I think that was the original pushback. I don't know if that's changed now in CNCF.
Yeah, and it wasn't because they were evil. It was because they didn't have resources to look at all the sandbox projects. Yeah.
Exactly. So it might have changed.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, Martin, I don't discount what you're saying. I don't disagree. I think we need to, kind of do the homework, but it's not as simple as we might think, right? Because also, what happens if CNCF develops an alternative bare metal management toolkit. That would pretty much spell the end of this project as well.
Yeah. Okay. I think we only have 4 minutes left, and we can't make it. We can't really decide now. I think it's good to look at CNCF. So why don't we look at that? And then I know last week we also talked about perhaps bringing in somebody from LFE to look at that. But
yeah, that would also be ARPIT, who runs both LFN and LFE. So we have that person engaged. Yeah.
Okay. So with only 3 minutes left, and looking at this, we have this discussion of LFN, Virtual Development and Testing Forum. Is something you can cover then, Luis, in just a few minutes?
Yeah, well, so we do have this virtual event coming up February 1 through February 4, and I know there's a lot of discussion about, where ODIM should reside as a project. I think either way, wherever the home, for ODIM winds up being, it's good exposure, right? To get out in front of, the community and, share ODIM information, facts, and just get that exposure, get that synergies. Again, no matter where the project, ultimately resides, it's good to just, get that started. Not only that, not only with the LFN community, but also, the certain amount of reuse with any proposals that you used here at the Dev Testing Forum, can be reused other places. But again, I think it's good promotional avenue, whether it's LFN or not, and good chance to dialogue with other communities. And you may see some better fits, when you talk with other folks. I mean, obviously, Anaket folks will be there in force, right? So lots of opportunities there.
So what do we do there? Do we just are you thinking we should just join or do we have an ODIM session, or what is your thinking?
Yeah, so we can develop an ODIM session. There's certainly a place for you. As a matter of fact, on the wiki, I put a parking place for ODIM topics should the community decide to do that. So yeah, we can schedule you in and propose. Go ahead. I think someone had.
No, I think we should do something. I would make it more bilateral, right? I would make it more along the lines of what we did with CNTT, or I'm sorry, with CNTT.
Yeah, that's right.
Where we have basically a discussion where here are the needs from the CNTT point of view. Here's our approach to addressing certain topics. Can we find synergies between the two? And whether we end up in Linux Foundation Edge or network or whatever, ultimately we need to solve real business problems, right? And if somebody says to us, hey, we already have this other effort happening here, we don't need yet another one, that's a good signal for us not to go. But at least we should position this discussion as an open discussion about, and maybe we form a little, maybe somebody from LFN, some of the companies can kind of join and do some preliminary work like we did with CNTT. But I kind of want to make it more two ways as opposed to just kind of regurgitating what ODIM does. I want them to tell us what kind of problems they're looking to solve from a physical infrastructure point of view. And then we can tell them what we're doing. And then if there are gaps, then we can decide whether we want to close them. If there are overlaps, then great, we have a beginning.
What is there any type of deadlines here, Luis, that we need to hit right away, or?
I haven't seen a deadline yet. I've been keeping an eye on it, and I'll talk to Brandon, later today. I'll ping him on Slack to see what it is. Proposals due January 15. There it is. Yeah, I guess
okay.
That probably just went up. So January 15, and then is a deadline for proposals. And I think Alex's proposal might be spot on, right? Just sort of pose it as an open dialogue, right, where you spell out very high level-ish what ODIM does, and then spell out some of the use cases that we've been kicking around, and then open it up to dialogue, and maybe make it clear right in the abstract that it's sort of geared to an open dialogue, you know.
I just want to make sure that we strike a chord, right, with
Yeah.
with the other
Sure.
community, right? I
Yep,
just want them to say, "Yep, this is good." I don't want us to just say, "This is what we do, great, woohoo!" But I want them to acknowledge that these problems are real for them.
Yeah. So we are over time, and I really need to head over to the other meeting. But I think so. We are interested in this definitely, Luis, and we should talk, and we should make sure we have that proposal ready for January 15th.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Hey,
guys.
Luis,
Yep.
will you stay on for just a second here?
Sure, happy
Could
to
you
do
do-
that. Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Where do I find the recording of this?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'll drop it on the wiki because I have access to the Zoom recording, so I have them. Sorry, sometimes I'm not as diligent getting the recordings on the wiki. I will get this on the wiki ASAP.
Okay. And is
As
it
soon as it
going to be in
compiles.
the same place as the meeting agenda and minutes? Is that where you usually put it?
Yes, I usually put them in the meeting agenda in minutes.
Awesome.
So you'll
Thank
see
you so
them, and I'll
much.
also put the chat file there as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
No worries. Take care.
Alrighty. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.